Welcome to Echoes Carved by the Ancestors, the land of forgotten carvings and stories carved into time itself. Here, we revive the echoes of those who came before us and bring their untold stories back to life.
Echoes of the Celestial Guardians, Chapter 1, The Day the Sky Darkened. Long before names of kings were counted, before roads crossed the desert, before maps tried to hold the shape of the world, there was a people who lived between the red earth and the wide, breathing sky. They called themselves the Ashaviri, the people of the first morning. They believed the world had not been born all at once. It had opened slowly, like a hand unfolding. First came darkness, endless and silent. Then came wind. Then came water hidden beneath stone. Then came the animals, each carrying a lesson. Last came the people, small and uncertain, but gifted with memory. Because of memory, they could learn from the dead, speak to the living, and prepare the unborn. The Ashaviri lived in a valley of dry grasses, silver-green shrubs, cottonwoods, and wandering washes that only carried water when the sky remembered mercy. Their homes stood low against the earth. Their fires were small but faithful. Their songs were old enough that no one knew who first sang them. At the center of the people's life was Elder Mahia, keeper of wisdom, guardian of ceremony, and last living voice of the deep ancestral teachings. Mahia was tall and thin, with shoulders like weathered branches and eyes that seemed to watch both the person before him and something far beyond. He wore a high ceremonial crown woven with feathers, reeds, and polished bone. Long vertical markings crossed his robe, each line representing a season survived, a promise kept, or a lesson paid for with sorrow. The children whispered that Mahia did not walk like ordinary people. He seemed to glide, as though the earth lifted him forward. But Mahia always smiled when he heard this. "I walk because my feet still remember the ground," he would say. A person who forgets the ground becomes useless to the sky. Beside Mahia served another sacred figure, one unlike any other among the Ashaviri. Her name was Sayani of the White River, though most simply called her Serpent Light. Across her ceremonial garment wound pale, flowing designs like rivers lightning and living serpents. A single white line ran down her center from throat to waist, symbolizing the path between breath and spirit. Her crown rose in clean, simple points, not as tall as Mahia's, but bright with shells, white stone, and threads of yucca fiber. Sayani was healer, dream walker, rain caller, and guide for those standing between grief and renewal. She knew the herbs that cooled fever, the songs that steadied frightened children, and the prayers spoken when a person lost someone they loved and could not yet understand why the world continued turning. Where Mahia carried ancient authority, Sayani carried transformation. Together, they guarded the balance of the Ashaviri, but balance is never owned. It is only kept. And one season, the sky began to fail. At first, it was only a strange red ring around the sun at dawn. The hunters noticed it before anyone else. They were crossing the northern plain, following the light tracks of deer, when the morning sun rose behind a circle of bruised shadow. A young hunter named Tahu stopped walking. "That is not cloud," he whispered. His companion, Orin, held his spear tighter. "Then what is it?" Tahu did not answer. Above them, the ring thickened. The light that spilled through it looked weak, as if the sun were trying to shine through smoke. The animals felt it too. Deer lifted their heads, but did not run. Antelope stood still with wide black eyes. Far away, bighorn sheep gathered along high ridges. Facing east, their horns catching the dim light like curved moons. By midday, birds stopped singing. By evening, the people were afraid. The Ashaviri gathered near the central fire, where Elder Mahia sat with his hands resting on his knees. Sayani stood beside him, silent, her white serpent markings faintly glowing in the firelight. Mothers held children close. Old men stared upward. Young warriors tried to look brave and failed. Then a little girl named Ina pointed at the sky. "Something is moving there." Everyone looked. Above the valley, beyond the first stars, shapes shifted in the darkening heavens. At first they seemed like clouds. Then they became wings. Then spears of light. Then great shadows twisting against them. The sky had become a battlefield. A golden force burned in the west, radiant and fierce, like dawn gathered into living beings. Against it rose a darkness from the east, not simply night, but a hungry shadow filled with movement. It curled and struck, swallowing stars as it advanced. A cry passed through the people. Mahia rose. His tall shadow stretched across the ground. "The old warning has returned," he said. No one breathed. Sayani lowered her eyes. "Then the shadow of chaos has found the door again." The name moved through the crowd like cold wind. The elders knew it. The singers knew it. Even the children had heard fragments of the ancient tale, that before the first morning, darkness had ruled alone. When light entered the world, darkness did not die. It withdrew beyond the sky, waiting for fear, grief, and division to weaken the living. Now it had returned. Mahia lifted his staff, a narrow sacred object bound in woven fibers and marked with vertical cords. "This is not a war of the sky alone," he said. "When darkness rises above, it searches for darkness below. It feeds on broken trust, forgotten duties, and hearts that surrender." A woman cried out, "Can we fight the sky?" Mahia looked at her gently. "No, but we can keep the earth from opening to it." That night, no one slept. The heavens flashed with silent battle. Light struck shadow. Shadow wrapped around light. Stars disappeared and returned. The moon turned copper red. Near dawn, the first loss came. The riverbed, dry for many moons, split open with a sound like thunder beneath the ground. Dust rose in a long brown wall. Several homes collapsed. A young boy named Kiro was trapped beneath fallen beams. The people dug with their hands until their fingers bled. Sayani crawled into broken space, singing under her breath. When she emerged, she carried Kiro alive, but his older brother Naman, who had shielded him with his own body, did not survive. The village fell into a grief. So heavy even a morning wind seemed unable to move it. Kiro clung to Sayani, shaking. "Why did he have to go?" he asked. Sayani held him close. Her white serpent markings seemed dimmer now. "Because love sometimes stands between danger and the small," she whispered. "That does not make the loss easy. It only makes it sacred." Mahia stood beside the grieving family and bowed his head. Then he spoke the first great wisdom alert of the dark season. "Listen well. Loss is not proof that darkness is won. Loss is the place where love leaves a wound so deep that wisdom must grow around it. Do not let grief become a door for evil. Let it become a fire that teaches you what must be protected." The people wept, but they listened. By the second day, the animals came closer to the village. Deer stood at the edge of the dwellings. Antelope crossed the open ground without fear. A great bighorn ram appeared on a ridge and remained there from sunrise to sunset, watching the sky as if guarding the people from above. Orin, the hunter, thought it was a sign. "The animals are not fleeing," he told Tahu. "They are staying with us." Tahu nodded. "Then we are not alone." That evening, Elder Mahia called for the gathering of 4 fires. For fires were lit. One for the sky, one for the earth, one for the ancestors, and one for the unborn. Every family came. The injured were carried. The grieving were supported. Children sat in the center, surrounded by adults, so they would know they were protected. At Mahia's command, Tahu and Orin stepped forward. They had returned from the northern plain with news. Beyond the hills, the darkness had touched other camps. Some people had fled. Some had fought each other over food. Some had vanished into dust storms that moved without wind. "We saw 2 figures walking toward the eastern ridges," Tahu said. "At first we believed they were travelers, but they never touched the ground." A murmur spread through the gathered families. "They drifted," Orin added. "Their forms were dark against the dawn. No footprints followed them. No shadow fell beneath them." Sayani slowly lifted her eyes toward the heavens. "The Watchers have awakened." Everyone knew the old name. The Watchers were never spoken of lightly. They were neither enemies nor friends. They had existed since the first morning, witnessing every promise kept and every promise broken. They appeared only when the balance between light and darkness began to fail. Some believed they judged. Others believed they remembered. Mahia nodded slowly. "If the Watchers have returned, then the heavens are measuring the hearts of the living." No one spoke after that. Instead, Mahia raised a sacred bundle he carried everywhere, a long woven vessel wrapped with braided fibers, decorated by generations of careful hands. Few knew what rested inside it. "It is time," he said. The words carried across the valley like distant thunder. For 7 generations this bundle has remained unopened. It was entrusted to every guardian before me with one command. He paused. "When the heavens divide, carry hope to where the world first learned courage." Children leaned closer. The elders lowered their heads. Even the wind seemed to wait. Mahia turned toward 4 young people standing near the edge of the gathering. Tahu, the hunter, stepped forward. Oren, his companion, followed. Aina, the little girl who had first seen movement in the heavens, looked up in surprise. And Kiro, the boy whose brother had given his life, stepped quietly beside her. The people exchanged uncertain glances. "They are only children," someone whispered. "They are the future," Mahia answered. "The future always walks beside those willing to protect it." Then he turned toward Sayani. "You will guide them." She bowed. "I will." The 4 chosen travelers looked at one another with equal parts excitement and fear. None understood why they had been called, but none refused. Before sunrise the next morning, the village gathered once more. Each family brought a single gift. One offered fresh water. Another offered woven blankets. Hunters offered dried meat. Children gathered wildflowers. The oldest women braided cords of white fiber to wear around each traveler's wrist. "You do not carry only yourselves," they reminded them. "You carry all of us." One by one, the people embraced the travelers. Some smiled. Others cried openly. Loss had already entered their lives. They understood every goodbye carried uncertainty. As the first rays of dawn touched the eastern mesas, a great bighorn ram descended from the rocky slopes. No one had ever seen such an animal. Its horns curved like polished crescents. Its coat shimmered with silver beneath the morning light. Instead of fleeing from people, it walked calmly toward Mahia. The elder bowed deeply, the guardian of high places. The ram lowered its head before the travelers. Then, without a sound, it turned north. Sayani smiled. "It has chosen our path." Their journey began beneath a troubled sky. Above them, streaks of golden light clashed with rolling rivers of shadow. Sometimes brilliant flashes spread across the heavens without sound. Other times the darkness seemed to swallow entire constellations before the stars slowly returned. No one had ever witnessed such wonders or such fear. During the first days, the travelers crossed broad grasslands where deer moved quietly beside them. The animals never ran. They simply walked nearby. At night, they slept beneath the stars. The deer remained nearby until sunrise. Aina noticed first. "They're watching us." "No," Sayani said gently. "They're walking with us." "Why?" "Because animals remember harmony better than people do." Several days later, the travelers reached the River of Mirrors. Normally, its waters reflected only the sky. Now, something strange appeared. Instead of showing their own reflections, the river revealed memories. Tahu looked into the water and saw himself as a frightened child hiding behind his father during a storm. Oren saw his first hunt. Aina saw her grandmother singing beside flowering trees. Kiro saw his older brother smiling before the collapse that had taken his life. The boy dropped to his knees. Tears filled his eyes. "I miss him." Sayani knelt beside him. "So do those who loved him. I should have saved him." "No, but—" She gently touched the white line running down her robe. Some burdens belonged to sorrow. She looked into the flowing water. Great wisdom alert. Everyone stopped. Never carry guilt for a sacrifice made from love. Honor it. Learn from it. Live well because of it. But do not chain yourself to what cannot be changed. Kiro quietly nodded. For the first time since losing his brother, he smiled. Only slightly, but it was enough. That evening, lightning filled the western sky. Not ordinary lightning. These bolts traveled upward instead of downward. Golden rivers climbed into the heavens while black storms reached toward them. The battle above was growing. As everyone watched, a great figure appeared among the clouds. Its body shimmered like sunrise. Its towering crown blazed with light. Long patterns ran down its form like flowing streams. No feet touched the clouds. It simply hovered above the world. Aina whispered, "The Guardian." Before anyone could answer, another immense figure rose opposite it. Its shape was formed from living darkness. Its arms stretched like smoke across the stars. Its eyes glowed like dying embers. The sky trembled. Light struck shadow. Shadow answered with impossible silence. Then both vanished. The travelers stood speechless. Sayani lowered her head. The war has reached its second turning. What happens now? Tahu asked. The darkness will stop attacking the heavens. Everyone looked at her. It will begin attacking hearts. Chapter 2. The Pilgrimage of the Four Fires. The valley remained silent after Tahu finished speaking. No child laughed. No elder whispered. Even the fires seemed to burn more quietly, as though it too listened for something moving beyond the circle of light. The two hunters stood before Elder Mejia, with dust still clinging to their boots. We saw two figures walking toward the eastern ridges. Tahu continued. At first we believed they were travelers, but they never touched the ground. A murmur spread to the gathered families. They drifted, Orin added. Their forms were dark against the dawn. No footprints followed them. No shadow fell beneath them. Sayani slowly lifted her eyes toward the heavens. The Watchers have awakened. Everyone knew the old name. The Watchers were never spoken of lightly. They were neither enemies nor friends. They had existed since the first morning, witnessing every promise kept and every promise broken. They appeared only when the balance between light and darkness began to fail. Some believed they judged. Others believed they remembered. Mejia nodded slowly. If the Watchers have returned, then the heavens are measuring the hearts of the living. No one spoke after that. Instead, Mejia raised a sacred bundle he carried everywhere, a long-woven vessel wrapped with braided fibers, decorated by generations of careful hands. Few knew what rested inside it. "It is time," he said. The words carried across the valley like distant thunder. For 7 generations this bundle has remained unopened. It was entrusted to every guardian before me with one command. He paused. When the heavens divide, carry hope to where the world first learned courage. Children leaned closer. The elders lowered their heads. Even the wind seemed to wait. Mejia turned toward 4 young people standing near the edge of the gathering. Tahu, the hunter, stepped forward. Orin, his companion, followed. Aina, the little girl who had first seen movement in the heavens, looked up in surprise. And Kiro, the boy whose brother had given his life, stepped quietly beside her. The people exchanged uncertain glances. "They are only children," someone whispered. "They are the future," Mejia answered. "The future always walks beside those willing to protect it." Then he turned toward Sayani. "You will guide them." She bowed. "I will." The 4 chosen travelers looked at one another with equal parts excitement and fear. None understood why they had been called, but none refused. Before sunrise the next morning, the village gathered once more. Each family brought a single gift. One offered fresh water. Another offered woven blankets. Hunters offered dried meat. Children gathered wildflowers. The oldest women braided cords of white fiber to wear around each traveler's wrist. "You do not carry only yourselves," they reminded them. "You carry all of us." One by one the people embraced the travelers. Some smiled. Others cried openly. Loss had already entered their lives. They understood every goodbye carried uncertainty. As the first rays of dawn touched the eastern mesas, a great bighorn ram descended from the rocky slopes. No one had ever seen such an animal. Its horns curved like polished crescents. Its coat shimmered with silver beneath the morning light. Instead of fleeing from people, it walked calmly toward Mejia. The elder bowed deeply, the guardian of high places. The ram lowered its head before the travelers. Then, without a sound, it turned north. Sayani smiled. "It has chosen our path." Their journey began beneath a troubled sky. Above them, streaks of golden light clashed with rolling rivers of shadow. Sometimes brilliant flashes spread across the heavens without sound. Other times the darkness seemed to swallow entire constellations before the stars slowly returned. No one had ever witnessed such wonders or such fear. During the first days, the travelers crossed broad grasslands where deer moved quietly beside them. The animals never ran. They simply walked nearby. At night, they slept beneath the stars. The deer remained nearby until sunrise. Ina noticed first. They're watching us. No, Sayani said gently. They're walking with us. Why? Because animals remember harmony better than people do. Several days later, the travelers reached the River of Mirrors. Normally, its waters reflected only the sky. Now something strange appeared. Instead of showing their own reflections, the river revealed memories. Tahu looked into the water and saw himself as a frightened child hiding behind his father during a storm. Oren saw his first hunt. Ina saw her grandmother singing beside flowering trees. Kiro saw his older brother smiling before the collapse that had taken his life. The boy dropped to his knees. Tears filled his eyes. I miss him. Sayani knelt beside him. So do those who loved him. I should have saved him. No, but... She gently touched the white line running down her robe. Some burdens belonged to sorrow. She looked into the flowing water. Great wisdom alert. Everyone stopped. Never carry guilt for a sacrifice made from love. Honor it. Learn from it. Live well because of it. But do not chain yourself to what cannot be changed. Kiro quietly nodded. For the first time since losing his brother, he smiled. Only slightly. But it was enough. That evening lightning filled the western sky. Not ordinary lightning. These bolts traveled upward instead of downward. Golden rivers climbed into the heavens, while black storms reached toward them. The battle above was growing. As everyone watched, a great figure appeared among the clouds. Its body shimmered like sunrise. Its towering crown blazed with light. Long patterns ran down its form like flowing streams. No feet touched the clouds. It simply hovered above the world. Ina whispered, "The Guardian." Before anyone could answer, another immense figure rose opposite it. Its shape was formed from living darkness. Its arms stretched like smoke across the stars. Its eyes glowed like dying embers. The sky trembled. Light struck shadow. Shadow answered with impossible silence. Then both vanished. The travelers stood speechless. Sayani lowered her head. The war has reached its second turning. What happens now? Tahu asked. The darkness will stop attacking the heavens. Everyone looked at her. It will begin attacking hearts. Within days, they began seeing the change. Travelers argued over food. Families abandoned one another. Hunters refused to share. Neighbors who had once laughed together walked separate paths. Fear spread faster than hunger. Wherever despair grew, strange shadows appeared just beyond sight. Oren reached for his spear more often. Tahu spoke less. Even Ina sometimes felt anger rising without reason. Only Sayani seemed unchanged. Each evening, she gathered everyone around a small fire. They spoke of gratitude. They remembered acts of kindness. They shared stories of those who had helped them. Every time they did, the strange shadows withdrew a little farther. Why? Ina asked. Sayani smiled. Darkness cannot live long where gratitude is remembered. Several weeks into their journey, they reached a vast plain filled with thousands of antelope. The animals stretched across the land like moving rivers. Suddenly, every antelope stopped. Not one continued walking. Every head lifted toward the eastern horizon. Then they all knelt. The travelers stared in amazement. Moments later, a warm wind crossed the plain. It carried no dust, only light. Golden threads drifted through the air like glowing feathers. Where they touched dry plants, flowers bloomed instantly. Where they touched cracked earth, green shoots appeared. Even Kiro laughed. The world is healing. Sayani shook her head gently. No, the world is reminding us that healing is always possible. That night the Watchers appeared again. Dark figures floated high above the travelers. They neither threatened nor spoke. They simply observed. Tahu felt uneasy. Are they judging us? Mahia's words echoed in Sayani's memory. She answered softly. They are remembering every choice we make. The floating figures slowly turned toward the heavens. Then every one of them pointed upward. A single brilliant star burst into radiant light. The entire sky fell silent. Even the battle paused. Something greater was coming. Something older than darkness itself. Sayani closed her eyes. The first guardian has awakened. Chapter 3. The First Guardian Awakens. For a long time, no one spoke. The brilliant star remained fixed above the world, brighter than every other light in the heavens. Around it, the endless battle between radiance and shadow slowed until the sky itself seemed to hold its breath. Even the wind became still. The deer resting nearby lifted their heads. The antelope ceased grazing. Far above the valley floor, bighorn sheep stood motionless along the cliffs, their silhouettes outlined by the glowing horizon. It was as though every living creature knew that history had reached a turning point. Sayani slowly lowered herself to one knee. The first guardian has awakened. The others followed without being asked. No command had been given. No ceremony had begun. Yet every heart recognized that something older than memory had entered the world once again. Before dawn, the radiant star descended. Not quickly, not with thunder. It moved with quiet certainty, like the rising sun reflected upon calm water. As it drew nearer, the travelers could see that it was not merely a star. It was a doorway of living light. Within it stood an immense figure unlike anything they had ever imagined. Its body stretched upward with graceful proportions, draped in garments that shimmered like flowing dawn. A magnificent crown rose above its head, woven from rays of golden light rather than feathers or branches. Across its robe flowed countless vertical streams of brilliance, each one moving gently as though alive. Its feet could not be seen. Instead, the figure seemed to stand upon light itself. No face could be clearly distinguished. Only eyes, kind, ancient, patient. The travelers instinctively bowed. Even Sayani lowered her head. For the first time in many years, she felt like a child. The great being spoke. Its voice was not heard through ears. It arrived within every heart simultaneously. Children of the living dawn. The words carried warmth beyond language. You have remembered compassion, while others remembered fear. You have shared when others gathered. You have forgiven while hatred searched for a home. Therefore you have been found. Tahu lifted his eyes carefully. Who are you? The great figure answered with gentle simplicity. I am called by many names. I have walked beside every generation that chose hope over despair. I am not their ruler. I am their witness. As the first guardian spoke, streams of light drifted from its robes. Where they touched the earth, flowers emerged from dry ground. Small pools of water appeared among cracked soil. Birds returned to trees that had long stood silent. Even the air smelled different. Fresh, clean, alive. Kiro stepped forward. My brother died protecting me. His voice trembled. Will I ever see him again? The first guardian looked toward him. For a moment the boy felt completely surrounded by warmth. There is no love that disappears. There is no kindness forgotten. No sacrifice is ever lost. Everything given in love continues beyond the sight of the living. Kiro began to cry, not from sadness, from peace. Above them, darkness stirred. The great shadow that had battled the heavens slowly gathered again. It spread across the eastern sky like an endless storm. Within it, countless faces appeared and vanished. Some looked angry, others frightened. Many simply looked empty. The shadow had no single form because it borrowed fear from every heart willing to surrender hope. The first guardian turned toward it. This is not your enemy. The travelers looked up in confusion. It is your choice. None understood. So the guardian continued. Darkness cannot create itself. It grows wherever courage is abandoned. It gains strength wherever truth is forgotten. It feeds wherever hope is surrendered. The words settled deeply within them. Then the guardian spoke another great wisdom alert. Evil is strongest when good people believe they are powerless. The moment one heart chooses courage, darkness begins to lose what is stolen. Suddenly the heavens erupted. Golden rivers of light burst across the sky. Shadow answered with towering waves of black mist. This time the battle was no longer silent. The earth shook beneath thunder unlike anything the travelers had ever heard. The clouds became living armies. Brilliant guardians emerged from every direction. Some carried shields woven from sunlight. Others held staffs formed from stars. Some appeared surrounded by soaring birds. Others moved with great antlered deer whose hooves left trails of light. Across the eastern horizon rose towering beings clothed entirely in shadow. Their armor resembled broken storms. Their voices sounded like mountains collapsing. Light met darkness. The heavens became a battlefield. Far below, panic spread among distant villages. People fled. Some blamed one another. Others fought over water and food. The travelers could see smoke rising from settlements many miles away. Tahu clenched his fists. We have to help them. The first guardian nodded. You cannot end every battle, but you can prevent fear from becoming another weapon. The travelers continued southward beneath the war-filled sky. Every village they visited carried new sorrow. One community had abandoned its sick. Another had turned away strangers. Elsewhere, two neighboring families who had once shared harvests now refused to speak. Everywhere darkness whispered the same lie. Protect only yourself. Sayani answered with action instead of argument. She healed the wounded. Tahu hunted for families too weak to hunt. Oren repaired broken shelters. Aina comforted frightened children with stories. Kiro gathered elders who had been left alone. Slowly something remarkable happened. Fear began to retreat. Neighbors spoke again. Families reunited. Children laughed. The strange shadows surrounding each village faded. The travelers realized something extraordinary. Every act of kindness weakened the darkness. Weeks later, they reached a broad valley unlike any they had seen before. In its center stood a great circle of ancient cedar trees. None appeared dead. None appeared young. Each tree seemed timeless. The first guardian waited there. So this is where we were coming, Aina whispered. No, Sayani replied. This is where we were becoming. The guardian raised one luminous hand. The cedar trees began glowing softly. Within their light appeared countless figures. Men, women, children, hunters, healers, mothers, elders. None touched the ground. They floated peacefully among the branches like gentle stars. The ancestors, whispered Oren. The first guardian nodded. They have never abandoned you. They remember every generation. They rejoice when compassion survives. The floating ancestors smiled warmly. Some reached toward the travelers. Although no hands touched, each traveler felt embraced. Kiro suddenly gasped. Standing among the countless spirits was Naman. His older brother smiled exactly as he had before the great collapse. He placed one hand over his heart, then pointed toward the living. No words were needed. Live well. Protect them. Do not remain in sorrow. The vision slowly faded. Kiro stood taller than before. The wound remained, but it no longer controlled him. That evening, Sayani opened the sacred bundle for the first time in 7 generations. Inside rested neither weapon nor treasure, only a single woven cord. White, simple, beautiful. The first guardian smiled. The greatest power has always appeared small. Sayani carefully lifted the cord. What is it? A promise. The travelers looked puzzled. The guardian continued. Each generation must choose whether light continues. No guardian can make that choice for them. No ancestor can make that choice. No spirit can force goodness. The future survives only when ordinary people keep extraordinary promises. Sayani understood. The cord represented every promise ever made to protect life. Every promise to forgive. Every promise to stand together. Every promise to choose hope. As darkness gathered once again beyond the eastern mountains, the first guardian turned toward the heavens. The final battle approaches. Golden light spread across the horizon. The watchers returned. The ancestors gathered. The animals assembled from every direction. Deer filled the valleys. Antelope covered the plains. Bighorn sheep lined every ridge. Birds circled overhead in great spirals. The entire living world seemed to answer one silent call. The time for watching was ending. The time for choosing had begun. Chapter 4. The Battle Above the World. Morning arrived beneath a sky unlike any the Ashaviri had ever known. Half the heavens blazed with brilliant gold. The other half churned beneath waves of endless shadow. Between them stretched a widening path of silver light that reached from one horizon to the other, as though the heavens themselves had been divided by an invisible hand. No bird crossed it. No cloud drifted through it. Even the wind avoided its brilliance. The first guardian stood beneath the ancient cedars, gazing upward without fear. The hour has come. Around the sacred grove, people began arriving from every direction. Families crossed the open plains. Hunters descended from distant ridges. Healers came carrying herbs and woven baskets. Children walked beside elders. Those who had once been strangers now greeted one another as friends. The darkness had tried to divide them. Instead, hardship had united them. Soon thousands filled the valley. Each person carried something simple: a loaf of bread, a water skin, a blanket, a carved walking staff, seeds wrapped in cloth. No one came empty-handed. No one came only for themselves. The first guardian smiled. Light has already begun its victory. Far above, the heavens erupted. Columns of golden fire rose toward the stars. Shadow answered with towering storms that swallowed entire constellations. Lightning raced between them, not white lightning. Living rivers of gold and silver burst across the sky, while great streams of darkness twisted like endless serpents. The battle was no longer distant. The earth trembled beneath every collision. Children clung to their parents. Yet no one fled. Mahia stepped beside Sayani. His age showed in every careful movement, but his voice remained strong. There will always be a battle beyond our understanding. He looked toward the gathered people. But our task has never been to command heaven. It has always been to keep hope alive on earth. Without warning, the shadow of chaos descended. It did not appear as one creature. It became many. Every fear, every regret, every broken promise, every forgotten kindness. Faces emerged within the darkness. Some cried, some shouted, some whispered. Each voice tempted those below. You have suffered enough. No one will help you. You stand alone. Take what you need. Trust no one. Several people lowered their heads. Old grief returned. Arguments began. Neighbors accused neighbors. Hands tightened around tools and weapons. The shadow smiled. It had entered their hearts. Sayani stepped into the center of the gathering. She raised a white woven cord that had rested inside the sacred bundle. The simple cord shimmered softly beneath the troubled sky. She did not shout. She simply spoke. Who gave you your first meal? The people looked at one another. Who carried you when you were too small to walk? Silence spread. Who forgave you when you failed? Some began to cry. Who taught you kindness? An elderly woman stepped forward. My grandmother. A hunter answered. My father. A child whispered. My sister. Another voice spoke. My neighbor. Soon hundreds were remembering. The shadow hesitated. Its whispers weakened. Sayani lifted the cord higher. Darkness teaches us to forget. Light teaches us to remember. The valley echoed with quiet voices. People embraced one another. Old enemies lowered their heads in apology. Families reunited. The shadow recoiled. Above them, the first guardian raised both arms. Across the heavens, countless radiant beings answered. Their crowns shone like dawn. Their garments flowed with streams of living light. Some carried staffs. Others bore shining shields. Some were surrounded by soaring eagles. Others walked beside glowing deer, mighty bighorn sheep, and swift antelope whose hooves left trails of stars. Across from them stood the armies of shadow. Towering giants formed from smoke. Winged shapes woven from storms. Dark serpents large enough to coil around entire constellations. The battle began. Light surged forward. Shadow answered. The heavens shook. Golden rivers crashed against endless darkness. Stars disappeared behind waves of shadow before bursting free once more. The entire sky became a living sea of courage and chaos. On the earth below, another battle unfolded, not with swords, not with armies, with choices. Every frightened person faced the same question. Would they surrender to fear or stand together? A frightened child became separated from her family. Before panic could spread, strangers rushed to protect her. An elderly man collapsed from exhaustion. Young hunters carried him. Water became scarce. Families shared what little remained. Every act of compassion sent another pulse of golden light upward into the heavens. The travelers watched in amazement. The people are helping the guardians, Ina whispered. The first guardian nodded. Heaven has always listened to the hearts below. Then came the greatest loss. A spear of darkness descended from the sky, not aimed at the people, at the first guardian. Without hesitation, Elder Mejia stepped forward. He planted his ceremonial staff into the earth. The woven fibers wrapped around it began glowing with brilliant gold. The dark spear struck. Light exploded across the valley. When the brilliance faded, Mejia still stood, but only for a moment. His staff remained upright. He smiled peacefully. Then he slowly lowered himself to the ground. Sayani reached him first. Tahu and Orin followed. The gathered people surrounded their beloved elder. Mejia looked toward the children, then toward Sayani. His voice was barely above a whisper. Wisdom, he paused to breathe, is not keeping the light. It is teaching others how to carry it. His eyes lifted toward the heavens one final time. The future belongs to those who choose hope. With those final words, Elder Mejia's breathing became still. The valley fell silent. Even the battle overhead seemed to pause. Many wept openly. Tahu lowered his head. Orin placed one hand over his heart. Ina buried her face against Sayani's shoulder. Kiro looked upward through tears. No. The first guardian knelt beside Mejia. There is sorrow, but there is no defeat. Golden light surrounded the elder. Slowly his spirit rose, not as an old man, but strong, radiant. His ceremonial crown shone brighter than the morning sun. The ancestors welcomed him with smiles. He looked once more toward the living, then disappeared into the sea of light. Sayani stood. The white serpent-like designs across her garments began glowing brighter than ever before. The single white line upon her robe blazed like lightning. The woven cord floated gently above her hands. She looked toward every person gathered there. This is our moment. No guardian can choose for us. No ancestor can choose for us. We must become the light. Thousands stood together. No one remained kneeling. No one stood alone. Hands reached for neighbors. Children stood beside elders. Hunters beside healers. Families beside strangers. The valley became one people. At that very instant, every act of courage, every memory of kindness, every promise ever kept burst upward into the heavens as rivers of brilliant light. The shadow of chaos roared. Its darkness fractured. The celestial guardians advanced. The armies of light surged across the sky. The greatest battle the world had ever witnessed reached its final turning. And for the first time since darkness had risen, the dawn began to return. Chapter 5. When the Dawn Returned. The valley stood together beneath a sky alive with fire. Golden rivers of light rose from every act of courage, every promise remembered, every hand extended to another. The streams joined above the people, weaving together into a radiant bridge stretching from the earth to the heavens. The celestial guardians advanced across that bridge. Their crowns shone brighter than the morning sun. Their flowing robes carried the brilliance of rivers, stars, and living dawn. The shadow of chaos recoiled as the light reached it, but it did not surrender. It gathered every remaining fear, every forgotten sorrow, every whispered lie into one immense form that towered above the world. Its voice rolled across the heavens. You cannot destroy me. The first guardian answered with calm authority. No. The shadow hesitated. The guardian continued. Darkness is never destroyed. It is overcome. The words echoed across heaven and earth. Every person heard them. Every ancestor heard them. Even the animals lifted their heads, as though they understood. The shadow stretched across the stars. Its enormous arms reached toward the earth, seeking one final weakness. It searched every heart. It searched every memory. It searched every wound. Wherever bitterness remained, it tried to grow. Wherever despair lingered, it tried to enter. But something had changed. The people no longer stood alone. When one person stumbled, another lifted them. When grief overwhelmed someone, neighbors surrounded them. When fear whispered lies, children repeated the wisdom Ahia had taught them. Hope passed from one heart to another like the lighting of countless small lamps. The shadow found fewer and fewer places to hide. Sayani stepped forward beneath the bridge of light. The white serpent-like patterns upon her ceremonial robes flowed like living rivers. The bright line running down the center of her garment glowed with the brilliance of lightning. She held the simple woven cord before her. The first guardian looked upon her with quiet pride. The time for healing has come. Sayani nodded. She raised the cord high into the air. It began to unravel, not into threads, into light. Each strand became a stream flowing upward toward the heavens. Every promise ever made in kindness joined the living tapestry. Parents protecting children, friends forgiving one another, hunters sharing food, healers easing pain, neighbors rebuilding homes, strangers becoming family. Every selfless act became another thread. The bridge of light grew stronger. The heavens themselves seemed woven together. Then something remarkable happened. The shadow began to change. Its terrible form trembled. The endless faces trapped within it slowly became visible. The travelers stared in astonishment. Those faces were not monsters. They were ordinary people, people consumed by fear, people who had abandoned hope, people who believed they had been forgotten. The first guardian spoke softly. Even darkness was once born from wounded hearts. Tahu lowered his spear. So they are not our enemies? They are those who lost their way. Sayani stepped toward the shadow. Instead of raising a weapon, she extended her hand. You are not beyond healing. Silence filled the heavens. The shadow hesitated. For the first time since the battle had begun, it stopped fighting. One by one, streams of golden light reached into the darkness. Each touched another wounded soul. The hatred dissolved first, then anger, then despair. The enormous form began breaking apart, not into destruction, but into countless sparks of gentle light. The sky brightened. The stars returned. The moon regained its silver glow. The long night that had threatened the world finally ended. A new dawn rose across the eastern horizon, not brighter than every dawn before it, but wiser. As sunlight spread across the valley, the celestial guardians slowly gathered around the first guardian. The watchers descended from the heavens one final time. No longer dark and distant, they now appeared clothed in soft silver light. Their silent task was complete. The ancestors stood beside them. Among them was Elder Mahia. He smiled proudly at the people below. Beside him stood Naaman, Kiro's brother. Countless generations watched with peaceful joy. The first guardian addressed both the living and the ancestors. You have remembered. You have chosen. You have become what the world required. The great guardian turned toward Sayani. The balance now belongs to them. He looked toward Tahu. Protect. Toward Orin. Serve. Toward Aina. Teach. Toward Kiro. Remember. Then he looked upon every child standing in the valley. The future will always belong to those who carry wisdom farther than fear. Years passed. The valley healed. Rain returned. The dry washes filled once more with clear water. Cottonwoods stretched high beside flowing streams. Deer grazed peacefully across broad meadows. Antelope returned with every changing season. The great bighorn sheep continued watching from the high ridges, as though guarding the land they had helped save. Children who had witnessed the battle above the world grew into wise mothers, fathers, healers, hunters, and teachers. Each generation told the story, not as a tale of war, but as a lesson. They taught that courage is strongest when shared, that grief becomes wisdom when carried together, that healing begins with compassion, that even overwhelming darkness cannot conquer hearts united by hope. Whenever disagreements arose, the elders would gather the people around for ceremonial fires. One fire honored the heavens, one honored the earth, one honored the ancestors, one honored the generations still to come. There, they remembered Mahia's final teaching. Wisdom is not keeping the light. It is teaching others how to carry it. The words became the foundation of their people. As centuries slowly passed, names changed, languages changed, families scattered across distant lands. Many details of the great celestial battle faded into memory. Some remembered only the first guardian. Others remembered the radiant healer marked by flowing white lines. Some recalled the watchers. Others remembered the faithful deer, antelope, and mighty bighorn sheep who stood beside humanity. Some remembered the sacred bundle. Others remembered only the simple woven cord that represented every promise kept. Eventually, no living person remained who had witnessed those extraordinary days. Yet, the people refused to let the story disappear. They found a way to preserve its deepest truths, not as written words, but as enduring symbols. They carefully created sacred images of towering guardians with elaborate crowns, a radiant healer marked by flowing serpentine lines, humble human figures lifting their hands in reverence, faithful animals gathered below, mysterious watchers above, and ceremonial symbols that spoke of protection, transformation, healing, and eternal connection between heaven and earth. Generations later, only those silent images remained. The voices were gone. The names had been forgotten. The exact meanings had passed beyond memory. In time, people would discover those ancient Barrier Canyon-style pictographs and wonder what story they once told. Archaeologists would recognize them as part of the Great Gallery tradition, understanding that they were symbolic and deeply spiritual, while acknowledging that their original meaning could never be known with certainty. But perhaps, hidden within those mysterious figures, there's still echoes of timeless truth. Whenever light and shadow wage war across the sky, the salvation of the world begins not with the strongest warrior, but with ordinary people who choose courage over fear, compassion over hatred, and wisdom over despair. And so the legend of the celestial guardians lives on, not only in ancient symbols, but in every generation willing to become a light for the next. The end.
Thank you for listening to Echoes Carved by the Ancestors. This has been an interpretation of the petroglyph. Our story pauses here, but the journey is far from over. Thank you for sharing this adventure through the ancient world of the Celestial Guardians, where courage, wisdom, and hope proved stronger than fear and darkness. If our time together was interrupted, don't worry. The legend will continue where it left off. Until then, may you carry the light of the Guardians in your own heart, and remember that even the smallest act of kindness can become the beginning of a new dawn. We look forward to welcoming you back for the next chapter of Echoes Carved by the Ancestors. As with most prehistoric rock art, the true meaning is unknown, but archaeologists often interpret the symbols through recurring themes. To hear more stories from the ancestors, choose another story, explore one of our videos, or subscribe to our channel using the links on your screen.